The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. It is day. I don't even know how many days I've quarantined at this point. Doing the best I can to keep my family safe. And that's all we can do, one day at a time. Hope you're doing well with your quarantine, or social isolation. What is it? Social distancing, whatever we're calling it. We're trying to do our best. Some of us are, others are not. Others are just out in the streets, not giving a damn. And, more power to them. They're going to mess it up for everybody, make it worse for everyone. It's already messed up our political institutions, our leadership, as I discussed at great length yesterday. It is the result of the failing. It is the failing of our political institutions that has put us in this position where the deaths will be far greater than they had to be. But now at this point, now that we are in the thick of it, or if we're just at the beginning of it, everyone could be doing their part to protect themselves and their families and their neighbors. And a lot of us are doing it, but so many people are still running these streets. So to those of you who can stay home. Now, I've been advocating for this for a little while now. And earlier on, people were yelling at me like, Ben, we can't. Not everybody can stay home. And I get it. I got it. And there's still people right now who can't stay home because of work. Their work is not letting them off, and they're not able to make that leap. And our system is not doing anything to help mitigate the need, the disaster that's waiting to happen for all the people who cannot stay home because they have to go out and make a check so that they can pay rent. Right. So it's not just people who are choosing to go out and partying. It's the fact that our government has given trillions of dollars to corporations, but to the people, you got to wait about 4 weeks to get you a $1,200 check. 4 months. If you're not lucky, it could be up to 4 months, leaving us into the precarious predicament of having to go out and face the world in the midst of a plague so that we can pay our bills. So it's a combination of people who just don't give a damn. I mean, if you watch TikTok or any other social media, you'll see people are out there making a statement that they can't be held down by any type of curfew, any type of quarantine. Okay, that won't hold you down. Coronavirus will. It's a combination of those people and our government and our institutions intentionally failing us, not because they're simply incompetent. Yes, they are incompetent, but they are strategically incompetent. They are strategically making these decisions because they feel that what they will be able to do is if they can starve us, that will force us to get back out there and to participate in this economy. Now, to be honest with you, this is not even what I'm talking about in today's episode. That's just my way of saying good morning or good afternoon, whatever time, or good evening, whatever time you're listening to this. Welcome to the show. And I still hope that you're doing as well as can be expected in the midst of these trying and difficult times. I will just give you a pro tip that I learned last night. I've been trying to distract myself in the evenings with watching movies. And as soon as the movie is over, my anxiety goes right back to 10. And the only thing that has been calming me lately is just listening to music. So shout out to Joe Thomas. If you want to know something about me, I've been a fan of Joe since I was in high school, 1998, All the Things Your Man Won't Do. That album actually soothed my soul last night when my anxiety was on 10. So get you a good album, get you a good soul album or whatever music, jazz, whatever is going to work for you to calm your spirit in this season, because we're in this for the long haul. We're going to do our best, all of us, to survive. But I think part of survival is being willing to commit to this for a very long time, as in a year to a year and a half. Again, good morning. That's not what we're talking about today. If I could just get that out the way, then I'll be able to get into what I want to talk about, which is a combination of news and politics. I do want you to still send me messages. People have been sending me messages, DMs, emails, because I want to talk with as many people as I can. I can't promise that I'm going to reply to all of them, but if I have a moment, I absolutely will. If you follow me on Twitter, I absolutely love interacting with people, because what's the point? What's the point of having a platform if you're going to be a snob? I honestly, genuinely want to hear from you how you're doing. Leave me a voicemail, leave me a text message, DM, whatever. Just tell me how you're doing, how your family is doing, how you're holding up. And I don't expect for you to tell me that you're doing good. Tell me as much of the truth as you can, as you feel that you can speak at this moment. Because it's hard, man. The truth is that is if this goes the way that it's looking like it's going to go, all of us are going to have a very difficult year. And there are better days behind us. And I have to hold on to the fact that there are better days ahead of us, that we will survive. Not everybody is going to survive. That's the grim reality of this. People are dying every minute. Families are being devastated. Hell, I don't even know if I'm going to survive, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. Shit, I don't know how thorough my quarantine protocols are. Bringing groceries in the house, picking up the mail, all those things are dangerous. Rubbing your nose. Like I spent the whole afternoon sanitizing packages that were piling up outside of our door yesterday. And then I scratched my nose. I'm like, the hell is wrong with me, man? It's so difficult. Like, I took all that time cleaning off mail and cleaning off all this stuff we needed to bring in the house because we had just let it pile up outside. All these packages that they were being delivered by the post office. And then at the very end of cleaning it, I scratched my nose and I'm like, holy shit. And now, scratching your nose could be a death sentence. So I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. My hope is that I will. My hope is that every single one of you listening to me and everyone connected to you, whether they be your friends, your in-laws, your spouses, your exes, whoever, anybody connected to you that you care about, my hope and my prayer is that every single one of us can make it out of this. My frustration, as I stated yesterday, is that every single part of our political institutions failed us spectacularly. And now we're in this situation. We're in a situation that is, comparable to 1918. But it's actually, I feel like if we had a one-to-one comparison, it's going to be tremendously worse because of how this presidency is handling it, but also how the institutions surrounding him are handling it, or rather how they didn't handle it early on. So all of that said, welcome to today's show. This is going to just be a long series of therapy sessions in between talking about politics, in between wanting to know and talking to you and wanting to know how you're doing and raging against the machine. We'll talk some politics and some news and everything else about this system that needs to change dramatically. One thing to be sure, though, I want to, I've got to start just by encouraging everyone. And it's funny, a couple of before everything started falling apart, I did this bonus episode where I was like, okay, I'm not a motivational speaker, and I kept making excuses about the inspirational tone that I was striking, but I just had to say some things that were on my mind and get it off my chest. But to be honest, all jokes aside, right about now, we could all use some encouragement. Because it feels like everything is falling apart around us. It feels like, it doesn't just feel like, but it is a fact that our political system, our media system, our everything failed us in this moment. And as a result, some of us are not going to make it. And it's so anxiety it drives our anxiety to 10 to 20. And it's not good for our mental health, what we're dealing with. And so I don't know. How do you encourage people when the reality is it's going to be extremely difficult days ahead? To be honest with you, the only thing I can tell you is that we have to take it moment by moment. One thing I learned yesterday, is to appreciate the moments, to not worry about whether or not the moments will last, because that steals the joy away from the present. In other words, we're so worried about tomorrow, the possibility of what will happen tomorrow, whether or not the symptoms that we feel are actually COVID or COVID-19, or whether or not it's just our mind playing tricks on us. Like, I've convinced myself at least 3 times every day, at least 3 times a day, I convince myself that I have COVID-19. And hell, I might. I don't know. We'll see. But
But that robs us, obsessing over that robs us of the ability to enjoy the moments that we have. And I'm lucky enough to, I don't know, it depends. Like, I really hope this is what's anxiety driving for me. The fact that I don't really too much care about myself personally, but I got my family in the household with me. And if I got it, then they have it. That's the part that gets me. But you have to compartmentalize this. We really are going to have to, man, I really want to do politics today, but I don't know if that's what we need right now. Hell, I don't know if that's what I need. So here's the thing. Like, before all this hit the fan, I was obsessed with the idea of living on the edge, whether it's living on the edge of financial ruin, living paycheck to paycheck. Everybody identifies with that. Living on the edge of emotional trauma, feeling like the world is falling apart around you, but you still have to get up and go to work. We are uniquely designed. I think human beings are uniquely designed to be able to compartmentalize so much. That's why you find in war-torn countries that are usually war-torn because of the United States of America, mind you, you find children able to have moments. They're able to have moments of joy in the midst of the chaos that's created by our system. And while that may not be much of a consolation, it should be an indication to us that we have the capacity. Whether we want that capacity or not is something totally different. Like, we would all rather not be going through this. But we're going through this. And so we have to compartmentalize just to get out of the bed sometimes. And to be honest with you, like, if I don't just take this looming fear that's in my head, had a sore throat 2 days, sore throat went away, and now my sore throat has turned into something weird. My throat just feels weird. And it could, I am a hypochondriac, so it could 100% be my imagination. But if I don't compartmentalize that and just set it aside and move on with my life and let everything play out the way it's going to play out, then I die before I die, if that makes sense. And I am that type of person. I'm the type of person who will suffer before I actually have to suffer. And you can't live like that. That's not a life to live. And so okay, fine. I'll be a motivational speaker. I'll be an inspirational speaker, because right now I think you just need to be able to get up, get out of the bed, and find a way to function in this chaos that we're living in. And sometimes there's not a good answer. Look, things don't always change. Sometimes you're stuck with the situation that you have for the rest of your life. And that means that, you have to just get busy living despite the reality around you. And so that would be all I could say about this at this point. Like, whatever comes, whatever happens, happens. But if we have this moment right now, the moment that you're listening to my voice, the moment that I'm speaking to you, this moment that I'm in, the ability that I could just go into the other room and spend some time with my kids, I'm going to go do that. And let life do what life is going to do. Because in the long run, like, this is why I don't want to be a motivational speaker, because there's my motivation. In the long run, we're all dead anyway. So why should we worry about it? Like, 100 years from now, nobody is going to be alive. Maybe our kids, technology, but 100 years from now, it's all going to be done anyway. So I am not a qualified motivational speaker, but I will tell you this: as much as humanly possible, get up, compartmentalize this, go listen to some music, go play some music, go dance, go anything that you can do to enjoy the moments that we have. Yeah. Okay. I didn't do it yesterday, but I think I managed to start the show off without talking about politics at all. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk some politics. All right. Buckle up for the ride. We'll be right back.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Here we go. Like I always said, it doesn't matter how many patrons we have, we will always have a patron party. because it's not about new patrons. It's about the fact that we have any patrons at all. There was a time I had no patrons. So very special welcome to our one and only patron from yesterday, Nicole Robb. Nicole, thank you so much for becoming a patron. We can't do it without you, Nicole. Everybody do a little bop. Everybody just bop your head just a little bit and thank Nicole for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and becoming a patron, and where you will get access to twice the content without any of the advertisements like you're going to hear right here. Okay. All right. Welcome back. All right, so let's get into some news. Or actually, rather, some politics. I am fixated with the fact that our entire political system has failed us. That's like the thing that's on my mind the most, because I'm sitting around wondering why it is that no one came and announced that this was coming. And as I discussed yesterday, I'm not going to go over it again, but I discussed it ad nauseum yesterday, and you can go check out that episode. That it is the result of how our system is built. We're stuck with Donald Trump, no matter how bad of a job he does, without political opposition that's not only willing but able to execute an impeachment all the way to removal from office. That's such a high bar that no one has been removed from office in the entirety of our nation. But I think we're at that threshold now. Donald Trump he is uniquely fit to destroy this country. I can see now how Nero fiddled while Rome burned. You think some of these things in history are absurd, and then you see it playing out in real time. But what's the most absurd about it is that this advanced political system that we believe that we have is completely incapable of holding the president of the United States accountable for what he believes is going to be, a victory, which is around 200,000 people dying. That's a problem. That's a problem because now in our toughest, here's the thing, if we had a war, there's no way that we would accept 200,000 casualties as a reasonable amount of people to be killed in that war. We would bring the entire, think of it, World War II, we had like just under 300,000 people who died in World War II. We brought the entire nation to bear. The resources of the entire nation, all of our skills, all of our workforce, the labor force. It was a total war. We brought every industry, every technology, every individual. We brought all of our resources to bear to fight that war. And here we have the president of the United States just kind of casually saying, okay, 200,000 is an acceptable loss. Not only an acceptable loss, you have Bill Mitchell, who is I think it was a former politician. He's a radio host now, who's like, if Donald Trump can keep it underneath 200,000, then he should go down as the greatest president in history. What? Now that's the scale of the failure and the absurdity surrounding the thinking and the ideology of Donald Trump and his supporters. But yet we don't have any political institutions sufficient enough, strong enough to actually hold him accountable. That's a problem. That's a problem not only presently, right? We're looking down, we're looking into the abyss of a plague. So it's a contemporary problem. But it's also a problem for our political institution, for America going forward. Because like I said, we can't always say, we think Donald Trump is the worst. We thought George W. Bush was the worst president we would ever have. We're still literally fighting his wars 2 presidents later. We thought George W. Bush was the worst, and now George W. Bush is considered to be an honorable, noble man compared to Donald Trump. Well, what happens when we get someone who makes Donald Trump look like, an honorable man? Don't think it won't happen, because it literally happened with George W. Bush. What happens when our political institutions and our structure is not capable of holding this president accountable, as he or she takes us into something far worse than what Donald Trump is even doing? Now, this is based on the presumption that America actually survives Donald Trump. Whew. And at this point, that's a pretty bold assumption, but let's work with it. If America survives Donald Trump, what's to say that we won't get a president that's even worse? So there's something that fundamentally has to change in our political system that gives us the ability to hold the president accountable, and not just at the election polls, the election day. It has to be more than that, because every institution failed us. Our media has failed us because they have this obsession with false equivalencies for the appearances of being non-biased in the middle of the most hyper-partisan experience that we've ever seen in this country. Like, it, quite honestly, like, there's nothing like we've seen before. This is, well, okay, let me take it back. There have been times in American history where the partisanship was just as entrenched. But we had media that was up to the task, right? Media that would seek out the truth and not try to create some type of parity between both sides, both sidesism, false equivalencies. And that propensity, that natural inclination that our media and our journalists have now, it honestly is pushing us to a place where our politicians can't hold the president accountable. The media can't hold them accountable. Those that try, they get like Yamiche from PBS NewsHour. I mean, they get recognition, but that's it. It is not she is the exception to the rule. That's the problem. Our media, we recognize somebody like Yamiche who asked, I think Jim Acosta this morning asked some penetrating questions. And now it's like, ooh, congratulations. You all are doing your job. And again, I want to be sure I'm not insulting those two individuals. I'm saying they should not be the exception to the rule. That should be the rule. So not only have our political institutions failed us, but our journalism has completely failed us. And they failed us at the most critical juncture. Like, could anybody not sound the alarm sooner? Like, I sounded the alarm as best I could. I think Chris Hayes did a pretty decent job leading up to it. But I think if we understood very clearly that Donald Trump was going to do what Donald Trump always does, that we should never have slowed down. Like, we should not have had a moment's hesitation to go with the full court press to challenge the president of the United States, because he was going to get a lot of people killed. And here we are. The media has failed us. Our political institutions have failed us. And I don't know that we will learn the lesson that we need to learn to not make this mistake again for those of us who survived the coronavirus. Okay. So fate, it would seem, is not without us. Damn. Let me shut up about myself. I just see that Chris Cuomo has tested positive for coronavirus. Wow. I am curious. Damn. God damn it. Not so much, it's just that this thing is so real, man. And you never really know where it's coming from, who gets it and how it's going to hit, or how bad it's going to hit. Some people are blessed enough to get it and not even know they got it. And then they pass it along to somebody who ends up dying from it. So you never know how you're going to respond. So best wishes to Chris in that. No, I mean, not even because he's on television, but because he's a person with a family. So damn. All right, let me pull it together, only because like it's real out here, folks. It's really, really real, and all we could do is compartmentalize and keep going, and stare this thing down. Stare this thing down with some sense of some stoicism. We gotta look this thing. It's. If we gotta die, then let's die. Let's do it with some pizzazz. I know it's wishful thinking. I'm grasping at straws here. I like to think that I would never die with my knees in the dirt, as Lil Wayne used to say on the Carter 3. Never knees in the dirt. I'm not going out like that. I'm gonna stand tall, and I'm gonna look it in the face, and take it head on. Right. But But until then, let's compartmentalize and move on. Whew. Okay, so that being the case, let's play some music and I'll be right back. Oh boy. All right. Coronavirus jobs losses could total 47 million. Unemployment rate may hit 32%, according to the Fed. This is an article from CNBC. Their key points are as follows. The coronavirus economic freeze could cost 47 million jobs and send the unemployment rate past 32%, according to the St. Louis Fed projections. There are nearly 27 million Americans working in jobs that are at high risk of layoffs, according to the analysis. The St. Louis Fed President James Bullard said last week that the initial estimates are grim, but the plunge should be short-lived. Juxtapose this to juxtapose it with the bill that was passed last week, the stimulus package, which gives everyone $1,200 if you make, I believe, underneath $75,000, and then for a family of two or a married couple, if $150,000, you get $2,400 one time. That's it. 47 million job losses. I think that I think our system is not really. I don't think our leaders are taking this seriously. Not enough leaders, not enough to pass meaningful legislation. I think they are going to have to. They're going to be forced to do another round of stimulus spending that targets nothing more than these individuals. The problem, the people who have lost their jobs. The problem is that we seem to not be able to get anything from this system unless it is going to be including a massive handout for corporations. And I think the fury behind that is being underestimated. I think people are downplaying the potential impact that this could have to the stability of our system, because there are going to be plenty of people who look at this and are going to be infuriated, not just with the Republican Party, not just with Donald Trump, which they should be, but they're going to be infuriated by all the parties that are a part of this, that participate in this. And the thing is, like, I was listening to AOC in the interview that she did with Rosa Clemente on Rosa Clemente's Instagram page yesterday. It was a good interview. Go check it out if you can get over there and see it. And she discussed the fact that, you know, while it was a voice vote and she did not directly support it, she really was opposed to it. What else were they really supposed to do? Right? You know, the American people were being held hostage by the parties in power. And if you wanted anything from the government, you had to be willing to give corporations everything they possibly could have ever wanted. And even after you gave United Airlines, like, you know, was it $50 billion, somewhere in that ballpark? You know, they still decided to lay off people. So corporations are acting as though this is business as usual, as if this is just some standard crisis. Politicians are operating as if this is just some standard crisis. But take the recession. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Folks don't realize that this is the 1918 Spanish flu combined with the Great Depression. Okay. I was getting ready to say take the Great Recession, but no, this is headed towards two of our biggest crises in American history at the same time. That's uniquely different, folks. That's not something that you could play politics as usual around, because you're talking about the stability of our nation. Not only the stability of our nation, yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, I really can't up the ante any more than that. You're not just talking about your position in power. You're not talking about getting voted out of office. We're talking about destabilizing conditions that could undermine the stability of our nation. And to see political figures and the media, for that matter, playing as though this is just some any other crisis, is even more indicative of how utterly we have been failed. Like, we have been failed on a monumental level. And the only thing that we can hope to do, those of us who are lucky enough, the only thing we can really hope to do is to survive. Survive long enough to change this. Not all of us are going to make it. And that is something that everybody is having to come to terms with every single day, all day long. Are we next? So now everybody in this country has the same existential dread that people who obsess like this on a regular basis have. And I'm kind of sometimes, at sundry times in my life, I'm one of those people who think, oh, I'm getting ready to die. Well, now everyone is dealing with that trauma all day, every day. Having to sanitize their groceries, having to be mindful at the post office or at their mailbox, and it's just be mindful of spraying down their doorknobs. Did they wash their hands when they came in? Did they wash their hands long enough? Did they get under their nails really, really good? Did that alcohol, did that hand sanitizer really kill all the germs that time? Or did I just transfer COVID-19 to my nose when I scratched it? You see what I'm saying? Everyone is dealing with this trauma all day, every day, and they're having to deal with this trauma in the midst of dealing with an economic calamity that we haven't seen since the Great Depression. Honestly, this is going to make the Great Depression 24.9% was the highest unemployment rate during the Great Depression with a considerably smaller population. We're talking about 32% with a considerably larger population. So if things get as bad, economically speaking, as the Fed is projecting, then this is going to be worse than the Great Depression. Add on top of that, the pandemic. This is not the time for politics as usual. Not at all. Not at all. We need radical leadership that can understand what's going on around us and not just understand it. See, we have leadership that looks backwards and says, oh, well, in 2008, we were able to do this huge bailout and the corporations made out like bandits. This is an opportunity to do that again. That's the most benevolent reading of the situation that I could possibly give. They're looking backwards and say, well, we did it in 2008. Why wouldn't we do it again? The problem is that this is not 2008. This is 1918 plus the Great Depression. So we need leadership that understands that and responds accordingly. All right, here comes my music. That's it for this particular section. If you want to get access to the rest of the show, go to patreon.com/the BPD show and become a patron. And I will speak to all of the patrons as soon as this music is over. For everyone else, thank you so much for supporting the show by listening, and I will see you tomorrow. Be sure to take care of yourself, and love somebody else. I'll see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.